Hello. It is Monday, the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. And at 14:37, the sun transits into gate 21, line 4. Line 4, a fourth line day. What do we get with a fourth line day? We have themes of opportunism. We have fixedness, and we have a kind of a missionary flavor to the fourth line. These are all keynotes to the fourth line. It's a day when the importance of others is brought into our focus. The fourth line is upper trigram. It's friendly, it's sociable. And in gate 21, it is educating people as to the necessity of control. In gate 48, it's teaching us that the collective needs others to externalize its value. So both the 21 and the 48 are just one gate away from the throat. The 48 is looking at the 16, which connects to the throat, and the 21 to the 45. And they need that. They need that other gate, that other connection to express the message of the hexagram. They are well aware of the value of networking. The moon today brings us themes of vitality and of the appreciation of just being alive through gate 58, and then also the drive to fight for what brings value and purpose to life in gate 38. So let's go a bit deeper. The 21-4 is called strategy. So now, as you know, upper trigram, and these are lines that are, they're more social in nature. They're much better equipped to be able to control whatever it is that needs to be controlled. And the thing that really needs controlling is the manifestation or the expression for the tribe. It's trying to get out through the 45 into the throat. The tribe has one throat gate, just one voice, and that is in the 45. So this gate is dependent on the 21. 45 is dependent on the 21 to work correctly, to serve the community correctly through control. So the fourth line, well aware that there is an other over there somewhere at the other end of the channel, at the other side of its gate. And it's here in this 21, it's making a careful appraisal of opposing forces in order to establish a proper response. And this is what the lifetime learning of this 21-4. This is the ego saying, I have to be in control. But it's also the ego that is saying, hold on just a second. How do I exercise that control? And the answer is through the lifetime learning of careful appraisal. And that is its strategy. So that is the name of the line, and that is the lifetime learning. And this is how all of this comes together in this particular line of the gate. So do you remember in the 17-4 where we were trying to fathom out the motivation of those who want to rule or who want to be led? Here, the 21-4 is doing a similar kind of thing. It's checking out the opposing forces. It's genetic continuity. It's that fourth line going all the way through. And all fourth lines carry the same structural themes. You also will remember, I'm sure, that the 21 has education as a strong part of its makeup. And the fourth line is known as the teacher, again through genetic continuity, through the 11th gate. I just think it's the 11th gate. The 11-4 is called the teacher. So again, we have that genetic continuity passing through all fourth lines. And here in the 21, they are well placed to educate others as to how to have a proper relationship with this gate, with control. They are able to tell others, firstly, this is why I need to be in control. This is their message. They're able to share that. And then secondly, they can inform others as to why control is needed and why the control is going to take them in a certain direction. So the exaltation says success in action through clarity. So clarity is important when we're dealing with others because it's so easy to misjudge the power of one's opposition. And the 21 who is operating correctly and who is clear as they externalize the themes of their gate, they will be successful in taking control. Fourth lines are known to be influential. This is a keynote again for the fourth line. And so it's another very good reason for clarity. If you're going to influence others, then being clear and being correct is essential. And reaching clarity can take time. The fourth line can have that missionary quality about them. And here we find it coming through in the 21 for detriment, where they are so convinced of being right that they step on a lot of toes and they end up with a lot of problems. And then they have difficulty controlling or influencing others. So the drive when in the right to follow one's ego rather than one's instincts. Fixedness, a keynote for the fourth line that we're well aware of. It is often the fixedness of the fourth line in the 21 that gets the reputation for being a control freak, because they're so fixed on being in control. When they have that fixed nature about them, they can piss everybody off left, right, and center, and then they end up not being influential at all and not actually controlling anyone at all, where being influential and controlling is why they're here. They're designed for that. Having an impact, but not actually then sort of translating that into being influential. Well, I mean, that's a difficult place for a fourth line because they are designed to be influential. And they have this massive capacity through the opportunistic nature of their line to be influential. So having the potential for impact, but not actually having impact, can be a really tough place to be. So the 4, actually, I was going to say something about the impact, because impact, of course, and we look at it again in the 5th gate and the 6th gate, impact here is, it's really important to bear it in mind because this is a manifestor gate, you know, in a manifestor channel. And impact is the reason why, when it's emotionally defined, the manifestor needs to wait, because they are waiting to see who they ought to inform in order to mitigate some of that impact. You know, it's that I'm going to have this impact, so I'm going to inform you first. It sort of releases that, the resistance that can come up. So impact is a keynote there for the manifestor. Then the earth is in gate 48, as we know, and in the line 4, it's called restructuring. So the depth in gate 48 is ultimately there to serve the collective. You know, this is the circuitry that we're in, the logical collective, and to be of value to the collective as well. This is really important. We've already heard that depth grows over time. You know, the well gets filled up drop by drop by drop. It's not a flood that comes in, because experimentation happens and then correction happens and then more experimentation happens. So it's a little bit filling up this well. The depth of this gate, which someone who has this gate often doesn't really appreciate for themselves, it can only really be of value if it can express itself. But it's not a motor and it's not a throat gate. So how does it express itself? Where does that come from? And of course, the answer is, for this splenic gate, that it comes through the other. And it's a line 4. So we know line 4s are friendly, and we know that they are networkers. And so that this is the answer. How do they express themselves? Through others, through attracting the right others who will help them get to the throat. And the networking thing of a 9-4, of course, I mean, it's obvious that they need others, because a network of 1 is not really much of a network after all. There's a very long exaltation line here that I would like to read you. And it says, okay, so the good sense to take advantage of restriction on short-term activity to assess the situation and restructure for long-term goals that will facilitate development when activity resumes. Phew. Glad I didn't have to memorize that one. The 48-4 is saying here that it's all of the short-term activity that it gets involved with. All of those are like the little drips that fill up the well. You know, these are all adding up to the greater depth of this gate. And it is that constant repetition and the practicing and the trying out of solutions when the opportunity arises. All of this is what comes together to gradually fill up the well. When opportunities don't come, well, this is a time then for waiting, for assessing, so that when activity resumes, you're ready, you're in a position to then move forward again. So gate 21 is in a circuit, is in the tribal circuitry that goes through the solar plexus. So the whole circuit is influenced by the solar plexus in that sense, because it's very powerful, and because when it is defined, which it is when you've got the whole circuit, it becomes the authority for that circuit. And one of the things we know about the solar plexus is that it takes time for clarity to come. You know, there's no truth in the now. The wave has to run its course. And so there is an element of the fourth line in the 21 waiting for clarity when it's appraising its opposing forces. Now, the 48-4 is grounding this by patiently assessing and restructuring. And when we look at the genetic continuity of the lines, we can kind of get a feel for how they're working together. If your strategy isn't working, then restructure it. Simple. Sometimes, you know, I look at these gates and I sit with them for ages trying to tease out why this gate is grounding that gate and what's the relationship between the lines and how does this all really work. And sometimes I get very heady with it and it gets very complicated. And then actually all I need to do is look at the names of the lines. And then I have, you know, the strategy and restructuring. And you're like, well, yeah, of course, they go together really beautifully. And it's like, aha, got it. And then I also have, duh. And maybe this is also a good moment to say that as I go through this process of exploring the gates and exploring the lines in the journey of the sun around the wheel, it's just my interpretation. You know, it's what I'm seeing, it's what I pull out of the material when I read it, when I listen to Ra. And sometimes odd words jump out at me, and sometimes it gets a little bit more convoluted than others, because some gates can be really a little bit tricky, and some lines can be a little bit tricky. But this is me making up my stories, okay? So you may have an entirely different experience of these gates and these lines because they're intrinsically related to everything else that's in the design. And when it comes to the 21 and the 48, I don't have these. Not consistently. I get them when the transit comes through or when I'm in aura with someone who has them, but they're not consistently in my design. So everything I know about them is intellectual, or it comes from observation or from anecdote. Anecdote is so useful. You know, I sit and I talk to someone who's got these and they tell me their stories about it. And then that gives me material then to play with and craft and offer to someone else who's got them and is trying to understand the energy of them. So if you do have these gates in your design and you would like to share your experience of the activations, I would love to hear from it. The collective would benefit from it overall. So if you have anecdotes I can share with others, you know, that would be great. I don't have to use your name. I never really use names unless it's someone who said to me, oh, they don't mind about that. It's the anecdote that's important. Anecdote, not the angledote. I don't know what an angledote is, but it's the the anecdote that is so important. And when it comes from true experience, it carries a frequency. And we're all about frequency. So yeah, if you'd like to leave a comment below, please feel invited. I would love to read it. Would you like to do that? Maybe not. Whatever is right for you. Anyway, so the moon is currently in gate 58. Yeah, 11:07 this morning it went in, the gate of vitality, the joy of being alive. It's in the root center, so it's a pressure gate, and it's the driving fuel for correction. So the pattern must be corrected because this is a logical gate. And when the pattern is correct, then humanity moves forward into the future safely. There's a progression that takes place, and there's a great joy to correcting a pattern when it's done in this way. There's a zest for life to be found here. It's the joy and the pleasure of being alive on the planet and just being part of this collective process, this consciousness in form. And from there, we go into gate 38 at 22:14. All times are in GMT, remember. Okay, so this is the gate of the fighter. It's another root gate, and it is the natural warrior, always ready to stand up for its individuality and its independence, because this is the circuitry that it's in. It fights against the odds to find value and purpose in life. It's a stubborn and a resilient energy. These people, they really don't want to hear what you've got to say about any fight that they are involved with. And their purpose and their value in life is for them. Following strategy and authority is important, of course, always important. And there are some gates where it is so relevant. And when you're standing up to fight for something, then there is potentially something there that could rebound on you uncomfortably. Then you really, use strategy and authority. It will also help to get away from any exhaustion that might come in from fighting for the wrong thing. Fighting from it because your mind tells you or somebody else tells you, or citing as something just doesn't actually matter. So if we weave all of this together and tell the little story of what is today's transit, we might say, okay, so today, as you externalize the power of control through your clarity and careful appraisal, restructuring if and when the opportunity arises, using the incredible depth of practicality that you hold in your well, can you feel an appreciation for the beauty and wonder of life and the rightness of fighting for something that brings value and purpose to your life? So that's me for today. Be kind to your lovely selves. Go gently, and I will see you on the next turn of the wheel when the sun goes into line 5. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching, and I can't turn it off. Okay, try again. Take 2. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.